Industrial policy is about economic activities, industries, and sectors. I mean, the classic image of industrial policy is picking sectors. That is to say, a country picks heavy industry as a sector, and then you subsidize that sector because you think there's something special and important about that sector for the economic development of your country. And sometimes it's about industries. You pick the car industry. For example, Malaysia places a very heavy industrial policy bet on the auto industry with the Proton Saga, which, by the way, didn't work out very well. But what industrial policy is really about is it's actually about economic activities, which are a slice of the pie even smaller than an industry, because any given industry, for example, the smartphone industry, can have lots of different economic activities in it. For example, you have the assembly of smartphones, which is done with large amounts of cheap labor manually. And then you have the manufacturing of their components, like the LCD flat panel display, like the microprocessor, which is a very high value economic activity because it's done not with a lot of cheap labor, but with a lot of capital and very skilled high wage labor, generally in advanced countries like Korea, Japan, and the United States. Now, the interesting thing is that although what you really care about if you want to impose a good industrial policy is capturing better economic activities for your country, you often can't get an economic activity in isolation. You can only get it packaged in an industry. Now, some industries are very tightly packaged, like the steel industry, with limited exceptions. The product that's made is made by one plant and then it emerges complete and gets sent down to the customer. It's not shipped around back and forth to different companies in different countries, even for creation of the product. For automobiles, which is a loosely packaged sector, like in North America here, we have, thanks to NAFTA, we have an integrated North American vehicle supply chain where sometimes an individual part will cross the border between the United States, Canada, and Mexico half a dozen times before it finally gets assembled into a car. Anyhow, when you have the option of targeting just a particular step in a supply chain so you can target the desirable economic activities, then that's what you do. But sometimes you have to basically target the entire industry. And the reason why industrial policy is not just about targeting economic activities and industries, but also entire sectors, is that if one industry is good, it's quite likely that similar industries are also going to be good. So if making steel, and let's consider this maybe a couple of decades ago when it was a little more clear that steel was an economically advantageous industry. I mean, it's better now than people think. But suppose you're trying to develop your country decades ago and you figure, okay, we should be making steel here rather than importing it. Well, if steel, why not aluminum? Why not copper? Why not other metals? So you have an entire sector, and that's where industrial policy got the reputation from decades of policy, not just in the capitalist world, but even in communist countries like the Soviet Union. They targeted heavy industry. That's where industrial policy got this reputation of being about targeting sectors. And indeed, some people writing about industrial policy today who don't understand it very well will just reduce the whole thing analytically to just sector subsidies, and they'll write articles and papers saying, okay, this country subsidizes this sector, that sector, this many $1 billion a year. And what results do they get? Well, it's not really ultimately about targeting sectors. It's always ultimately comes down to economic activities, some of which are more desirable than others because they support high wages, they have economies of scale, they support high capitalization, they have strong profit margins due to pricing power. And these are the kind of economic activities that you want that'll produce good wages for your workers, good profits for your capitalists, and also high tax revenues for your government, which does need these things to make society as a whole function.